One cannot keep things waiting forever. The great clangor of the gong announced solemnly, authoritatively, that all those scattered about, in attics, in bedrooms, on little perches of their own, reading, writing, putting the last smooth to their hair, or fastening dresses, must leave all that and assemble in the dining room for dinner. But what had I done with my life? At the far end of the table sat my husband, all in a heap, frowning. What at? I did not know. I did not mind. I could not understand how I had ever felt any emotion or affection for him. I had a sense of being past everything, through everything, out of everything, as if there were an eddy there, and one could either be in it, or one could be out of it. And I was out of it. It's all come to an end, I thought, as they came in, one after another. Charles Tansley, the young and anxious intellectual, Augustus Carmichael, the beached poet, Lily Briscoe, the painter, and William Banks, the scholar, and 4 of my 8 children, and sat down. And meanwhile I waited, passively, for someone to answer me, for something to happen. But this is not a thing, I thought, ladling out the soup that one says. Nothing seemed to have merged. They all sat separately, and the whole of the effort of merging and flowing and creating rested on me. But then Mr. Banks, poor man who had no wife and no children and dined alone in lodgings, except for tonight. Did you find your letters? I told them to put them in the hall for you. He was not in the least pitiable, thought Lily Briscoe. He had his work. It's odd that one scarcely gets anything worth having by post, yet one always wants one's letters, said Mr. Banks. What damned rot they talk, thought Charles Tansley. Do you write many letters, Mr. Tansley? I asked. He was not going to talk the sort of rot these people wanted him to talk. He was not going to be condescended to by these silly women. No going to the Lighthouse tomorrow, Mrs. Ramsay, he said. He was really, thought Lily Briscoe, the most uncharming human being she'd ever met. Oh, Mr. Tansley, she said, do take me to the Lighthouse tomorrow. I should so love it. She was laughing at him. He could see that. He felt very rough and isolated and lonely. If only he could be alone in his room working among his books. He turned to me. But I was talking about people he had never heard of to William Banks. It must have been 15, no, 20 years ago that I last saw her. Is Gerry still living at Marlow? And is everything still the same? and he was thinking that he had not drifted apart. Sitting beside me, he thought, she is one of my oldest friends. I am by way of being devoted to her. She is one of my oldest friends. I am by way of being devoted to her. She is one of my oldest friends. I am by way of being devoted to her. But at that moment, my presence meant absolutely nothing to him. Nothing. I could sense this. Meanwhile, Mr. Tansley was extremely, even physically, uncomfortable. He wanted someone to give him a chance of asserting himself. Why could no one ask him his opinion? Lily Briscoe could see all that. She could see the ribs and the thigh bones of the young man's desire to assert himself. Will you take me to the lighthouse tomorrow? She asked. And judging the turn in her mood correctly, that she was friendly to him now, he was relieved of his egotism. I was once in my uncle's lighthouse off the coast of Scotland in the middle of a storm, he said, loudly in a pause. Lily had done the usual trick, she thought. She'd been nice. He would never know her. She would never know him. Human relations were all like that. And the worst were between men and women. William Banks was thinking, perhaps the others were saying something interesting. What were they saying? They were talking about wages and unemployment. The young man was abusing the government. Lily was listening, I was listening, we were all listening. But already bored, Lily felt that something was lacking. William Banks felt that something was lacking, pulling my shawl around me. I felt that something was lacking. I wished my husband would say something. It would make all the difference. He went to the heart of matters. He cared about fishermen and their wages. I looked at him thinking to find us in the face, he would be looking magnificent. But not in the least. He was screwing his face up. He was scowling and frowning and flushing with anger. Why? Because poor old Augustus Carmichael had asked for another plate of soup. He hated people lowering their food. But why show it so plainly? We looked at each other, up and down the long table, shooting these questions and answers across, each of us knowing exactly what the other was thinking. Everyone could see, and the children would be off in spasms of laughter until the second ago I said, light the candles. Now the candles were lit up, and the faces on both sides of the table were brought nearer by the candlelight. For the night was now shut out by panes of glass, which rippled so strangely that here, inside seemed to be order and dry land, and there, outside, a reflection in which things wavered and vanished waterily. Some change at once went through us all, and we were all conscious of making a party together in a hollow on an island, had our common cause against that fluidity out there. They must come now, I thought. And at that instant, Paul Rayleigh, Minta Doyle, and a maid carrying a great dish in her hands came in together. It must have happened then. They are engaged. We went back to look for Minta's brooch, said Paul, sitting down beside me. That was enough. They'll say that all their lives, and an exquisite scent of olives and oil and juice rose from the great brown dish. This will celebrate the occasion, I thought, diving into the soft mass of meat. For what could be more serious than the love of man for woman, bearing in its bosom the seeds of death? At the same time, these lovers, these people entering into illusion, glittering-eyed, must be danced round with mockery, decorated with garlands. It is a triumph, said Mr. Banks. He was talking about the beef. And I knew all his love, all his reverence have returned. Lily Briscoe was sitting a few seats away from me, looking at me. There's something frightening about me, she thought. Always she got her way in the end. Now she had pulled this off. Paul and Minta, one might suppose, were engaged. William Banks was dining here. She somehow laughed, led her victims, Lily felt, to the altar. It is so beautiful, so exciting, this love, that Lily trembled on the verge of it. Also, it's the stupidest, most barbaric of human passions. Women in love would all the time be thinking, this is not what we want. There is nothing more stupid, puerile, and inhumane than this. Yet it is also beautiful and necessary. Well then, there was something of her own in Lily Briscoe, which I liked very much. William must marry Lily. They have so many things in common. Lily is so fond of flowers. They are both cold and aloof and rather self-sufficing. I must arrange for them to take a long walk together. And at that moment, I had reached security. I hovered like a hawk suspended. It arose, I thought, looking at them all eating there, from husband and children and friends, all arising in this profound stillness, like a smoke holding us. Nothing need be said. All round us coherence, stability. Something, I mean, is immune from change and shines out in the face of the flowing, the fleeting, the spectral, like a ruby. Of such moments, a thing is made that endures. It could not last, I knew. But my eyes were so clear that they seemed to go round the table without effort, like a light stealing under water, so that its reeds and the waves in it and the minnows balancing themselves were all lit up, hanging, trembling. For the moment I hung suspended. Ah, but how long do you think it will last? Asks someone. Let us enjoy what we enjoy, said Mr. Banks. How odd to see them all sitting there in a row, my children, almost silent, but for some joke of their own going on, I knew from the twitching at their lips. What was it, I wondered? Sadly, rather, for it seemed they would laugh when I was not there. But dinner was over. It was time to go. People were only playing with the things on their plates. I would wait until they had done laughing at some joke my husband was telling, and then I would get up. Augustus Carmichael started singing. Come out and climb the garden path, Luriana, Lurily. The China rose is all abloom and buzzing with the yellow bee. I wonder if it seems to you, Luriana, Lurily, to see the kings go riding by over lawn and daisy lea, with their palm leaves and cedar sheaves, Luriana, Lurily. And as he passed me, he turned and he bowed his head slightly, and he sang the last verse. And all the lives we ever lived and all the lives to be are full of trees and changing leaves, Luriana, Lurily. It was necessary now to carry everything a step further. I waited a moment longer in a scene which was vanishing even as I looked. And then as I turned, and I left the room, it changed. It shaped itself differently. It had become, I knew, already the past.
Stumbling along a passage one dark morning, stretched his arms out. But Mrs. Ramsay, having died rather suddenly the night before, His arms, though stretched out, remained empty.
Well, we must wait for the future to show.
It's almost too dark to see.
One can hardly tell which is the sea and which is the land.
Do we leave that light burning?
No, not if everyone's in. Just put out the light in the hall. Somebody groaned, or somebody laughed aloud, as if sharing a joke with nothingness.
rusty hinges and swollen sea-moistened footwork, certain airs detached from the body of the wind, crept round corners and ventured indoors.
Almost one might imagine them as they entered the drawing room, questioning and wondering, toying with the flap of hanging wallpaper, asking, would it hang much longer? When would it fall?
Now, some random light directing them, the little heirs mount to the staircase and nosed round bedroom doors.
But what after all was one night? Divine goodness had parted the curtain and displayed behind it, distinct, the wave falling, the boat rocking. Which did we deserve then? Should be ours, always. So loveliness reigned, and stillness.
Prue Ramsay died in some illness connected to childbirth. A shell exploded. 20 or 30 young men were blown up in France, among them Andrew Ramsay, whose death, mercifully, was instantaneous. A poem by Robert Frost. When I see birches bend to left and right among the lines of straighter, darker trees, I like to think some boy's been swinging them, but swinging doesn't bend them down to stay as ice storms do. Often you must have seen them loaded with ice, a sunny winter morning after rain. They cling upon themselves as the breeze rises and turn many colored as the stir cracks and crazes their enamel. Soon the sun's warmth makes them shed crystal shells, shattering and avalanching on the snow crust, such heaps of broken glass to sweep away. You'd think the inner dome of heaven had fallen.
Oh, gosh.
I like this color.
That's good.
Yes. Nice now. Oh, I think I need to be laying off the biscuits. Okay.
Hi. Oh. Some tea.
Yes.
Cheers.
Cheers, my love.
Daffodils today.
Yes. Oh, do you hear that wind?
Hi.
Mrs. McNabb!
Mrs. Bass.
There's a small building next in the living room.
Oh, in the kitchen there's thistle thrusting aside the tiles.
Oh. Oh, there's a spider winking at me.
Oh, don't look there, Aggie. Don't look there now.
Oh no, look at what you see, Aggie. one send to the lighthouse indeed?
What does one send? What does one do? Why is one sitting here after all? For really, what do I feel come back after all these years and Mrs. Ramsay dead? Nothing. How aimless it is. How chaotic, how unreal. Mrs. Ramsay dead. Andrew killed. Prue dead too. Repeat it as I may, it rouses no feeling.
It is a beautiful, still day.
That night, many years ago around the dinner table, there had been a problem about the foreground of a picture. A picture of Mrs. Ramsay and James. Move the tree to the middle, I had said. I never finished that picture. I want to paint that picture now.
Oh God, it's Mr. Ramsay.
Alone. Perished.
With him bearing down, I can do nothing. Every time he approaches, it's ruin, chaos. I can't paint. He makes it impossible. If I give him the least chance, he will be on me, saying,
You find us much changed.
He permeates, he prevails, he imposes himself. He changes everything. I can't see the color, I can't see the lines. I can only think he'll be down on me in a moment, demanding something I feel I can't give him. That man never gives, that man takes. I, on the other hand, will be forced to give. Mrs. Ramsay gave. Giving, 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 she died and left all this. Here am I, a grown woman, wasting my time, unable to do a thing, sitting here playing at painting, playing at the one thing one does not play at. And it is all Mrs. Ramsay's fault. She's dead. Surely I can imitate from recollection the glow, the rhapsody, the self-surrender I have seen on so many women's faces. Here he is, stopped by my side. I'll give him what I can.
No, I can't do it.
It is immensely to my discredit sexually to sit here dumb. One says, what does one say? Oh, Mr. Ramsay, dear Mr. Ramsay?
What beautiful boots!
Oh, good God, to praise fools when he asked me to sell us his soul, I deserve complete annihilation.
They are made of the finest leather in the world. Now, let me see if you can tie a knot.
We've reached a sunny island where peace dwells, and the sun forever shines, the blessed island of good boots. I am tormented with sympathy for him now, but it's come too late.
Oh, what a face! What made it like that? He must have his doubts. He has doubts, or he would ask less of people. An extraordinary face.
So they're gone. To the lighthouse.
transliteration of those lines, and in the mass of the hedge that has stayed in my mind. But where to begin?
Here I am again, drawn out of gossip, out of living, out of community with people, into the presence of this ancient enemy of mine, this other thing, this truth, which suddenly lays hands on me, emerges stark at the back of appearances and commands my attention. Why always be drawn out and haled away? Why not left in peace? Always right before I start, I have a few moments of nakedness where I seem like an unborn soul, a soul reft of body, hesitating on some windy pinnacle and exposed without protection to all the blasts of doubt.
Why then do I do it? In the midst of chaos, there is shape.
Is it a boat? Is it a cask? Ah, aren't things spoiled then by saying them? Aren't we more expressive thus?
It has all gone against your wishes. Life has changed completely. They're happy like that, I'm happy like this. I escaped by the skin of my teeth. I had been looking at the tablecloth at dinner that night, thinking of this painting, and it had flashed upon me that I would move the tree to the middle, and need never marry anybody. And I had felt an enormous exultation. I had felt, no, I can stand up to you. No, one can say nothing to nobody. The urgency of the moment always misses its mark. Words flutter sideways and strike the object inches too low. How can one express in words this emptiness here? To want and not to have sends all of my body up. And then to want and want, how that brings the heart, Mrs. Ramsay. What is it then? What does it mean? Is there no safety? No learning by heart the ways of the world? No guide, no shelter, but all is miracle, and leaping from the pinnacle of the tower into the air. Could it be, even for elderly people, that this is life, startling, unexpected, unknown, Mrs. Ramsay?
Sometimes it looks quite close to the shore. But the lighthouse looks this morning in the haze an enormous distance away.
They're headed there today. Mr. Ramsay and James and Cam. To the lighthouse, finally, after all these years. Oh. wind has blown the trail of smoke about. There's something displeasing about the placing of the ships. I have been wasting my morning. What is the problem then? I must try to get hold of something that's evading me. Let it come if it will come. For there are moments when one can neither think nor feel. And if one can neither think nor feel, where is one? Here, on the grass, on the ground. Here, standing on the world. For I can't shake myself free from the sense that everything this morning is happening for the first time. Perhaps for the last time. This lawn is the world. It has no effect. I don't need her now. You must keep on looking, without for a second relaxing the intensity of emotion. You must hold the scene so it abides, and let nothing come in and spoil it. You want to feel simply, that's a chair, that's a table, and yet, at the same time, it's a miracle, it's an ecstasy.